What's up, everyone? It's Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner with the third installment of our Wild Card Weekend NFL DFS single game showdown picks and lineup advice for both FanDuel and DraftKings. This time it is Sunday's first game between the Saints and the Vikings. So, very similar to a Saturday game, this matchup is extremely tough for low risk contests. And because of that, if you look on both FanDuel and DraftKings, the reason for this is a lot of times it becomes difficult for low risk in single game slates when you have stud running backs on both sides. Look here, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, both two of the top four players as far as salary goes on FanDuel. Two of the top four as well. And if we try any combination of our usual two quarterback, two running back, Breeze, Cook, Kamara, Cousins, I guess this is a little more possible like this if you go with, let's say, Saints defense, and you can get both defenses in there. However, this is a high total game. And what makes this an interesting slate is the fact that we have Michael Thomas, a receiver, who actually projects for more points than any other player on the slate, including both quarterbacks. That's very rare. He has one of the highest floors of any player in the game, and it's rare to see a median projection for a receiver be higher than both quarterbacks. So it would be tempting to leave him out, but would it be smart? All these questions we have make it pretty much impossible to play low-risk contests, and it's even worse on FanDuel. If you play the top four guys, that's literally all of your salary cap. You can't play with a fifth guy. Even if you take Breeze out and play Cousins, you only have $2,500 left to fill the last spot. So, really impossible. What we'd recommend is really lower your allocation on this slate. Stick to high-risk contests. It's a great slate to try to rack up some satellite tickets for future contests or try to bank 100-player leagues or some single-entry GPPs. So, if we go back to DraftKings, this game here, Saints are 8-point favorites. The total has been bet up tremendously. Nearly a 3-point increase in the total from 46 to 49. Highest total of the weekend games. So, with that total over that 47-point mark, it's when we start to look for receivers and pass catchers in our MVP and captain spot, especially on DraftKings. So, Michael Thomas is the obvious answer, but at the most expensive salary and the highest projection, we imagine he'll be the most popular captain on this slate. Who are some guys you can go with to differentiate yourself from the field? Well, you could go with Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara. Both of these guys, Cook has missed the last two games while resting. Had an injury he could have played through, but the Vikings were smart and held him out until the playoffs. 4.6776 targets per game, plays in the passing game. Kamara, same way. We know about his passing game involvement. So pass catching running backs are also included in this mix when we talk about pass catching options at captain in high total games. But the guys we like here that can provide a lot of leverage are Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. Thielen in particular, because he's been hampered by that hamstring in the second half of the year. But we imagine with last week off and no re-aggravation of his injury since the first time he re-injured it, we think he'll be back to his usual early season workload where he was seeing, 6 to 8 targets per game. That's much more in line with his expectation rather than 4-3-1-2 that we've seen over the last couple of weeks as he was just returning from his injury. So in a high total game, on an underdog, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen will both be under 10% owned as the captain. Great way to differentiate your lineups. Another guy to keep an eye on here is Jared Cook, who has had an absurd average depth of target over the last couple of weeks, nearly 16 yards. And tight ends are included in that pass catcher column, that categorization. So while his targets haven't been heavy, they've been deep and they've been high value. And it's possible that he gets more looks in this game as well. What about on FanDuel? Let's jump over there really quickly. Cousins is going to go under-owned. We always see this phenomena. The more it happens on DraftKings especially, and then as we've studied FanDuel single game GPPs. Underdog quarterbacks, especially those that are underdog by a touchdown or more, go way lower owned in the MVP spot than they should relative to their actual possibility of being the highest scorer on the slate. So Kirk Cousins is the best leverage MVP on FanDuel. So add Cousins with Breeze and these other pass catchers, and you have the makings of a great high-risk player pool. Kind of similar to the New England matchup where you can play a bunch of different guys in captain and MVP and high-risk contests, a larger pool rather than a concentrated pool. That's the way we would play this in high-risk contests. Any other guys we need to consider here? Probably not. The Vikings run a lot of 2 receiver sets, 2 tight ends. They don't run as many 3 receiver sets. So it'll be interesting to see if they do get down in this game, if that changes. So guys like Olabisi Johnson would have more intrigue if that's the case. And there are no other super value plays. Now, the Philly game, be sure to look out for that video, Philly and Seattle. Tons of value plays in this bargain, basement, barrel, whatever you want to call it, at the bottom of the salary list. So I encourage you to go check out that video. To do so, subscribe to our channel, and you'll be notified as soon as that video is released. And you'll be notified when all of our videos are released. So I encourage you to do so. And that video will be out later tonight, well before Sunday's closing game of Wild Card Weekend. All right, that'll do it. If you have any questions, you can comment below, and we'll get back to you before the slate starts. If you liked what we've done here, give us a thumbs up. And again, please click that subscribe button. It'll help us out. So I'm Brian Jester for Occupy Fantasy. We appreciate you listening, and good luck.